Okay, the title of session 5 is Tea, a livelihood, question mark, crafting a better future for the people of tea. To discuss this central issue which determines the future of Ceylon tea and all tea is a panel of speakers, each representing the industry stakeholders. To provide better context to this discussion, especially for our foreign delegates, I would like to give a brief history and overview of the Ceylon tea industry. The British in the 1820s sought to build a plantation economy in Ceylon. After brief experiments with cinchona, they settled on coffee as the crop of choice. To meet the growing labor requirements, workers from South India were brought to Ceylon to work on these plantations starting in the 1820s. These indentured workers underwent a perilous journey by sea and foot to their final place of work in the highlands. Working and living conditions at the estates were difficult, and many continue to live in penury. Even today, they continue to reside in the plantations established during colonial times. One of our speakers, Mr. Arul Sami, chairman of the Plantation Human Development Trust, will explain to us the activities undertaken by his organization to address the social and economic challenges faced by his community. Now back to the timeline. James Taylor, not the singer, a pioneer of the Ceylon tea industry, established the first commercial tea estate in 1867 in Lulakandara in the Kandy district. By 1873, he had exported his first consignment of 23 pounds of Ceylon tea to London. In the 1880s, in response to the devastating coffee rust fungus, the plantation economy would make a dramatic change from going coffee to tea. This transformation, believe it or not, happened in 1 decade. Tea, naturally, flourished in Ceylon due to its inherent flavor, character, and well-organized industry. By 1965, Ceylon became the largest black tea exporter in the world despite its smaller geography. The industry structure was radically changed in the 1970s, when the socialist government of the time, on the pretext of land redistribution, nationalized or took into state ownership the highland plantations, something Mr. Nadeem Ahmed characterized as an own goal. The youth unrest in the late 70s in the southern Sri Lanka would galvanize the government to gradually expand smallholder tea cultivation in the early 80s. Unlike the plantation structure in the highlands, these southern regions adopted a decentralized model of outgrowers supplying independent tea factories. The minimum price for green leaf was determined through a formula linked to the final price fetched at auction. Mr. Lionel Herat yesterday told us all about the 68-32 ratio. These low elevation teas with their unique leaf style and taste characteristics were actively sought after by markets, especially in the Middle East. Today, these small entrepreneurs numbering over 400,000, I'm told it's 500,000 today, account for 75% of the tea grown in Sri Lanka. Mr. Jagat Patirana, Chairman, Federation of Tea Smallholder Development Societies, will address us on the issues facing this very important growing segment. After 2 decades of state ownership and mounting losses, the government of the 1990s returned the management of highland estates to the private sector through the creation and listing of regional plantation companies. Dr. Roshan Rajadure, Managing Director, Haley's Plantation Sector, who manages 3 RPCs, if I'm correct, will appraise us with the challenges and the way forward for his segment. In 1983, the ethnic war commenced. Apart from the loss of life and the scarring of the national psyche, it also hampered economic growth and the true potential of Sri Lanka. The war ended in 2009, but Sri Lanka's economic troubles simmered until the calamitous debt default in 2022, which brought upon the nation untold hardships. Despite all these tumultuous events, the Ceylon tea industry is strong and resilient. However, this resilience is being tested by changes in climate, social attitudes to work, and evolving trends in consumption markets, subjects that we discussed during yesterday's session and continued today. Let me now go on to share with you some data points to set the stage for our discussion. In 2014, Sri Lanka produced 338 million kilograms. By 2023, crops declined to 256 million kilograms. The decline was attributed to lower yields from aging tea bushes due to insufficient replanting, inadequate and improper use of fertilizer and good agricultural practices, climate change, and most importantly, labor. Plucking rounds at high elevation estates are 10 days when they should be ideally 7 days. Just to explain what a plucking round is, it's the amount of time a worker takes to go around and come back to the same bush. Lower elevation smallholder plots are also recording plucking rounds of 12 days. Here too, it should be 7 days. The average age of a tea worker is estimated to be above 39 years. The unemployment rate in Sri Lanka is around 4.5%. However, the labor force participation rate is around 50%. Males account for 70%, while females only account for 30%. If we look at employment by sector in Sri Lanka, you will note that the share of workers engaged in primary agriculture has declined from 30% a decade ago to around 27% today. Tea is a subset within this space and reflects this trend. Similarly, if you consider primary agriculture as a share of Sri Lankan GDP, it remains at around 8%, while the share of industry and services continue to grow. And this is the usual trajectory of a modernizing economy. In summary, attracting and retaining labor in agriculture is a challenge in Sri Lanka and globally. In a labor-intensive industry like tea, how we manage this challenge will determine the future of the industry.